Good morning. Picture the scene. One of those great evenings with good friends where you talk about life, the universe, your hopes and dreams. And one of your friends brings up a topic for conversation, a move from the urban jungle. You're curious. What do they mean by that? They go on to describe the urban jungle is what for generations we've all been sucked into and consider to be normal. The 9-to-5, 5-day-a-week work format. The long commutes into cities and urban areas. The long hours in large physical buildings. The urban jungle, the status quo. They go on to suggest how amazing it would be to move away from that, to flip the status quo on its head, to revolutionise the future of work. You all start to get curious, to explore and question. Why is work this way? Why can't work be different? What if? You unlock a united front. Work doesn't have to be this way. You don't have to conform. You don't have to do what you've done for generations. Work can be different. By the end of the evening, you're united in terms of the revolution. Tomorrow is going to be different. The next morning, you wake up, you think about the night with friends. The conversation was great, the ambition, the opportunity, the options and choices. It was a great conversation. You flick the kettle on, you start getting ready for the day. Guess what? You get sucked straight back into the urban jungle. The commute, the traffic jam, the treadmill of life. The status quo. It's safe, low risk and comfortable. The night with friends disappears. You continue to work until you retire, you pick up your pension, and at some point you're resting in peace. Whatever happened to option B? Option B was where you continued with others to be curious, to explore and to question why not, what if? You continued to think about the opportunity that you've got, the options and the choices. You had options and choices. When I think back over the last 46 years of my life, there were many times when I had to make a choice. Option A, the status quo. Option B, to flip the status quo on its head. To be curious, to explore and to question why not, what if? And I've always been drawn, for some reason, to option B. And I think it's got something to do with this. From the age of about 5 or 6, I spent huge amounts of time with my granddad. He was a quiet man, didn't say very much. He was retired, and when everybody else was working, I would spend all of the school holidays with him. Being quiet, he was fortunate. Television wasn't actually on during the day in those days. We would actually spend lots of time for me to be curious, to explore and to question why not, what if? And I believe during that time with my granddad, I developed a special skill. To always be curious, to explore and to question, my gift. And I believe we all have that gift, if only we choose to use it. When I was 17, I had to make my first big choice. My college course was coming to an end and I needed to make a decision about my future. My mum was really keen for me to get a job, start earning money, pay rent, settle down, follow in her footsteps. But there was something about that narrative that didn't sit well with me. I was curious to understand what else there was out there. So I really wanted to go to university, but in my family that wasn't what we did. We were a working class family from London. What we did was we got jobs, we worked really hard. When we weren't working, we were talking about work or family. But the curious 6-year-old wanted to understand, why didn't we go to university? What would happen if we did? I decided to speak to my college tutor. I was sure she was going to give me some inspiration, perspective, options and choices. The conversation didn't really go that way. She looked me straight in the eye and said, "Tina, university isn't for somebody like you." In her mind, there was no option B. But of course, I had my special gift. I continued to be curious, to explore and to question. And despite what I was hearing, I made a choice. I applied for university, I graduated with a 2:1 honours degree, and upon graduation had several job offers to choose from. Option B worked out. I then had to make my second choice, big choice, which job to take. This time I thought I'd speak to my dad. He was encouraging me to take the safe option, the well-established traditional company based in London. The status quo. But of course, the curious 6-year-old wanted to understand, what about the other options? There was one in particular that was a riskier choice. It would take me completely out of my comfort zone. It was an interim contract working for an unknown technology startup with global travel. Guess which one I took? Option B. Option B worked out. It was one of the best decisions I've ever made. But the reason I tell you that story is because I believe we always have a choice. There will always be risk, and there will always be derailers. My mum, my dad, my tutor were all derailers. Your friends, your family, your work colleagues, society, the narrative you tell yourself are all potential derailers. They don't mean any harm. They often have your best interests at heart. They want to protect you. You want to protect yourself. The status quo is safe, low risk, and comfortable. And that's okay, as long as you've given yourself the choice to be curious, to explore, and to question why not, what if? Where they see risk, you may see opportunity. And flipping the status quo is easy, but if you think about it, that's exactly what the whole world has done over the last 2 years. We've completely flipped the status quo on its head. One day we were happily, or not, commuting into the urban jungle, travelling around the world with work on the treadmill of life. And overnight, everything changed. There was no status quo. We were doing all kinds of work remotely. We were taking risks. We were pivoting all over the place. We were being curious, exploring and questioning why not, what if. We were working from our kitchen tables, our spare rooms, and our bedrooms, or if you were anything like me, at the bottom of the garden in a summer house, anything to escape the homeschooling. But in a world that was locked down, all of a sudden we had choice. We were all in our little boats navigating our sea of change. So a move from the urban jungle and revolutionising the future of work should be pretty easy from that foundation, until our biggest derailer of all gets going, crashing at our little boat like a tsunami. The narrative we tell ourselves, the stories in our own mind, reinforced by our derailing friends and family and our status quo loving colleagues, all sprinkling their seeds of doubt that we don't have a choice. And then our derailers are supported by situational challenges, like the boss that doesn't want to give you a choice, or pragmatic things like the need to earn a certain standard of living. I'm not naive enough to think that revolutionising the future of work can happen overnight by just one person, or that it's going to be easy. But if you ever think you don't have a choice of how to take your thinking forward, I urge you to get to know this lady, Edith Edgar. Edith is in her 90s. She's an Auschwitz survivor. And Edith believes that even in the most extreme, horrendous situations, you have a choice. You have a choice of how to respond and how to take your thinking forward. And most importantly, what goes on in your own mind. And I just love this quote from her. We don't know where we're going. We don't know what's going to happen, but no one can take away from you what you put in your own mind. We always have a choice. There will always be risk and there will always be derailers. But the most important choice of all is how we respond to take our thinking forward. Together we are stronger was a term that was used all the time during lockdown, and I believe it to be very true. And as Margaret Mead says here, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Together, we could move away from the urban jungle. We could flip the status quo on its head and revolutionise the future of work. What if we go back to that night with friends and that ambition, opportunity, excitement and energy to revolutionise the future of work. And this time, we got up the next day, we made the tea, we started our status quo life, but this time we started to take small steps forward. We started to take our action forward together. What if you started a working group in your organisation to explore the future of work? What if you started a networking group and moved from the urban jungle? What if you got together with like-minded colleagues to action plan the revolution? Or what if we did all three of those things and created a movement? It may get messy, there may be risk, and there most certainly would be derailers. But together we are stronger. And so long as we've given ourselves the choice to be curious, to explore and to question why not, what if? If not now, when? Thank you.